Okay, second video here. This is on practice problems for special segment. I apologize, I don't have the music or the little video to start me off being in the board for you. So let's just get going on this. You're going to get problems like this. Find x and the measure angle 2 if ms is an altitude of the triangle. And angle 1 is 3x plus 11, the measure angle 2 is 7x plus 9. Now, if it's an altitude, that means it has to be perpendicular to the side. So ms must be perpendicular to qn, which means it makes a 90-degree angle, or it actually makes two 90-degree angles. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 would have to equal 90, is what that means, because that's our angle addition property there at work. So that means 3x plus 11 plus 7x plus 9 has to equal 90. So now we're doing the algebra. All my x's and stuff are on one side, so that means I got to combine like terms. I've got a 3x and I have to add 7x. That gives me a 10x. I've got an 11 and a 9. I have to add those. I get a 20. That equals 90. So now I can subtract off the 20. That gives me 10x equals 70. And then I can divide by 10. And that tells me x equals 2. So it also says to find the measure of angle 2. So I got the x. Measure of angle 2 would be 7 times 2 plus 9, which will be 14 plus 9. 14 plus, no. That was a 70. X is 7. So it gives me a 7 times 7. That's a 49. That's a 58-degree angle. So if it's an altitude, it's got to make a 90-degree angle. Now they use the same figure, but they change up what it is. They tell us that ms is a median. If it's a median, that means we have to have two congruent sides because s is a midpoint. Well, if that's the case, qs and sn have to be the same length. qs and sn have to be the same length. So 3a minus 14 has to equal 2a plus 1. Now I just have to solve that. I'm going to move the smaller a, so that's the 2a minus the 2a from both sides. I get a minus 14 equals 1. Add the 14, and I get a equals 15. So I found the a, and now it asks us a weird question. Is ms also an altitude? Well, to be an altitude, this angle that they give us, MSQ, would have to be 90 degrees. So the measure of angle, MSQ, is going to be 7 times, our A is 15, plus 1. Well, 7 times 15 is 105, and if I add 1, I get 106. So the answer to this is no, because I didn't get a 90-degree angle. Now let's switch the problem up. What if WP is a median and an angle bisector? If it's an angle bisector, that means it cuts that angle, HWA, into two equal angles. And if it's a median, that means HP and PA have to be equal. So with that being said, let's see what we got. We're given that AP is 3AY plus 11 and PH is 7Y minus 5. Well, those two have to be equal. So 3y plus 11 has to equal 7y minus 5. Well, let's solve for y. That would mean I'd want to subtract the 3y. You get me 11 equals 4y minus 5. Add the 5. That gets me 16 equals 4y. So then if I divide both sides by 4, that gets me 4 is y. Okay, now on the other side, I've got angle WHP. WHP is x plus 12. I've got PAW. PAW is 3x minus 2. And I got HWA. HWA, the whole thing, is 4x minus 16. Well, if the whole thing is 4x minus 16, that means I need 2 of the x plus 12s to make that work. That's the only way those two things could be equal, is if, because the x minus 12 is half of the big one, so there have to be 2 of those. So that gives me 4x minus 16 has to equal 2x plus 24. Now if I subtract my smaller x value, that's 2x. Now I have 2x minus 16 equals 24, and if I add the 16, run out of room there, I get, bring it up here, 2x equals 40, then I can divide by 2, and I get x equals 20. Well, now the question is, can it also be an altitude? For it to be an altitude, that means right here at the angle P, there has to be 90-degree angles. Well, I know I have a triangle right here if I can find the measures of the angles. Well, when I have the 4x plus 12, or 4x minus 16 right now, that could also be written as an x plus 12 because those two had to be the same. X plus 12 would be a 32. So this would be a 32-degree angle. And if I put it in for this other one, the 3x minus 2, 3 times 20 is 60 minus 2 is 58. So that's a 32 and a 58. If I add those up, so 32 plus 58 gets me 90, and in a triangle, all three angles have to add up to 180. That would mean this would have to be a 90-degree angle right here for that to work. So the answer is yes, because the angle added up to 90. Okay, let's try a different way to look at this. This time it tells us that WP is a perpendicular bisector. Well, again, that means the HP and the PA have to be congruent, and that has to be a 90-degree angle right there at P because it's a perpendicular bisector. Now, we're told that WHA, so this angle, is 8Q plus 17, and HWP, this angle right here, is 10 plus Q, and we're told that AP is 6R plus 4, and PH is 22 plus 3R. I'm supposed to find R, Q, and the measured angle HWP. Okay, so R is going to be easy. That's going to use the fact that it's a bisector. So the 22 plus 3R has to equal the 6R plus 4. I'm going to solve that equation. Now the other one, I have 2 of the 3 angles in the triangle, and I know the other one's 90. So 10 plus Q plus 8Q plus 17 plus 90 would have to equal 180. Or I can just use that one corollary theorem that says that the 2 acute angles have to equal 90. And that's what I'm going to do just to simplify the problem. So I have these 2 problems. I want to find the R and the Q on. So let's go ahead and find the R since we started it first. Subtract the smaller R value. So I'm subtracting out the 3R. So I got 22 equals 3R plus 4. Subtract off the 4. That gets me an 18 equals 3R. Now I can divide by 3. That gets me 6 is R. Now let's solve the Q one. Notice the Q's are everything are on one side, so these are like terms. I got a Q and I got to add 8Q to that. That's really 1Q plus 8Q. That's 9Q plus, now the 10 and the 17 can get added together. That's 27, and that would equal 90. So now I can subtract off the 27, and that's going to get me a 9Q equals 63. And then if I divide by 9, that gets me Q equals 7. So now I found the R, and I found the Q, got both of them, and I'm supposed to find the measure of angle HWP. HWP is the angle at the top, so that's the 8Q plus 17. So HWP is going to be 8 times 7 plus 17. 8 times 7 is 56. 56 plus 17 is 73. So HWP is a 73-degree angle. Okay, so there are some practice type problems. You have to look at the different rules for what the thing is. If it's an altitude, it means we're making a 90-degree angle. If it's a median, it means we're cutting the side in half, getting 2 equal parts. If it's an angle bisector, it means we're cutting an angle in half, getting us 2 equal parts. If it's a perpendicular bisector, we both get the side cut in half and 90-degree angles like this last one. You're ready to go now.